Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello and welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie Cation here. It is November or December, which means please do not donate to the Dork Forest this month. Direct donations should go to your local food bank. To do that, you would Google the words food bank and then the name of your town, and then one will show up. And then you will send them the $10 or the $100 or the gajillion dollars that you would have sent to me, Jackie Cation, to a food bank in your neighborhood. Anyway, let's do the credits. Mike Rickberg composed and sang that song you just heard. He's going to sing his words to the Mexican hat dance at the end of the program. Patrick Brady's going to fix this audio, and Vilmos works on my website, JackieCation.com. The DorkForest.com has all the notes, the link to the YouTube version of the show, which is just the show is available on iTunes, and there's a player on DorkForest.com, but there's also a YouTube version of it if you can't listen to iTunes for some reason at work, but you can listen to YouTube, so knock yourself out. JackieCation.com has all the rest of it. If you want to support the show by buying Christmas gifts, or Hanukkah gifts, or Kwanzaa gifts, go to the merch page, knock yourself out. All the t-shirts, there's Ranger of the Dork Forest t-shirts, there's Spooky Reading Girl, there is Meat Shield t-shirts. The Meat Shield t-shirts remain a charitable t-shirt that go to the ACLU, Black Lives Matter, and Southern Law Poverty Center. You can do that. There are also pins, Spooky Reading Girl and Meat Shield pins. Those are not yet available on the website because I haven't gotten it together. But email me, Jackie@JackieCation.com, and we'll figure it out. There is my calendar, which is available. You can see where I'm playing stand-up comedy-wise, and I'm on the road a bunch in December this year, so feel free to come out and see me do stand-up comedy live. There are videos. You can watch me do stand-up comedy. You can see a clip of my DVD, This Will Make an Excellent Horcrux, which is available streaming or as a hard copy on the merch page as well. There is the Amazon banner. If you're going to order from Amazon, you can use the Amazon banner on DorkForest.com or JackieCation.com. It's just a portal, sends you to Amazon, you order like normal, and it supports the Dork Forest. There are premium episodes on Bandcamp. So it'd be the dorkforest.bandcamp.com, and they are probably a dozen episodes that are live. They cost me a couple of bucks to make, so I charge you a couple of bucks. There's also some free episodes and a storytelling album on that Bandcamp page. Help yourself. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Feel free to review it on iTunes if you like, or email me if you have any questions or problems, Jackie@JackieCation.com. Let's get into the show. Hey, it's Jackie Cation. I had to double check to see if we were recording. Robert Buscemi, how you doing?
I'm great.
Welcome to the Dork Forest.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
You should be. What? What just happened there? It got belligerent. It's so funny because, okay, well, first of all, let me tell people that you are a great comic.
Thank you so
everybody
much.
Find the Robert Buscemi out in the world. It's at Robert Buscemi on Twitter and Instagram, robertbuscemi.com. And you have two albums, Palpable and one Pretty Peacock. And you just did, it's gone, but people can find it, an episode of Ray Donovan.
Right.
And you're going to be on an upcoming episode of that Netflix TV show, Frankie and Grace.
Or Grace and Frankie. I don't ever remember whether it's Grace and Frankie or Frankie and Grace or Grace and whatever.
Right.
But yes.
Fair enough. You're not wrong. I don't either. All I know is that Baron Vaughn's on it and my mother-in-law loves it.
He's great.
So,
yes.
And I want to watch everything, but I don't watch anything except for, right now I'm 8 episodes behind in Cloak and Dagger, and I understand there's a new series of Discovery that's come out.
That's good.
So those are two things that I'm interested in watching that I'm also not watching.
Yeah.
So knowing your heart. So you, hilariously, of the last 10 episodes of The Dork Forest, this is probably the 6th one where essentially we're all trying to figure out how to cope with our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of our dorkdoms are like how I deal with my anxiety.
Yes.
How I deal with what I do to make myself feel better. And so yours is self-help.
Yeah.
It was, I think it was, Steve Young did life coaching. So whatever. But it was like, so yours is self-help. You have brought at least a dozen books. I recognize some of these titles, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you have in these self-help books, books about acting and stand-up.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Why? Like, so it's not just straight up, hey, On Apology, which is one of my sister's favorite self-help books. It's called
On Apology? O-N? Apology?
Yeah, and it's essentially how to apologize.
What a fantastic book. I love it.
Yeah, you would, I think.
I'm actually pathologically good at apologizing.
Oh, wait a minute. Interesting. Hubris. Wait, how do you...
Can you be hubristic about your own ability to apologize?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you
Boy,
can. You
can, can't you? Because you're proud that you're such a humble bastard.
Exactly.
You're proud of your humility. That's
well played. Well played, I say. Not a lot of people can do it. You're nailing it. But you know, the On Apology book, and I have not read it. I want to read it. I know it. It's in my cart on Amazon. I should apologize to Darla because my sister tells me, like, she's sent me clips of it, and there's PDFs online because people have like, this is amazing.
Do you owe her an apology of some kind?
I think I do. Darla, I'd like to genuinely. Well, no, because she gets to tell me how to apologize sometimes, and it's essentially it's about actual contrition. It's about actually being sorry.
Yes,
and about actually not deciding that you won't do it again.
Yeah,
whatever you did, and if there's any way that you can fix what you did do, and if you can't, how not to harp on it.
It's an under-celebrated art.
Yeah.
People don't do it. It's not admired generally.
Right. And the way people write their apologies in the newspaper are usually full of excuses, because a true apology doesn't have excuses.
Mitigations and
not if it's your fault.
Right.
You don't go, yeah, I'm sorry. And it's like the ifs and the ands and the buts.
Yeah. The contextualizations.
Yeah. You got to lose them. You got to just be sorry.
Yeah.
Just be sorry and fix it.
Yeah, because it goes without saying that you were worked up. Basically, you're saying, well, I was worked up. We were in conflict. I got hot under the collar, and I'm sorry.
Robert
little
Buscemi
of that isn't too damning.
Has just said the words worked up, and I'm pleased as punch. No, exactly, though. Because, everyone's worked up.
It goes without saying. Don't say it. Just say, look, I shouldn't have done that.
Right. I know that I shouldn't have done that. And we both need to read this book clearly because there's verbiage that tends to justify our errors instead of just owning our errors and moving forward. I mean, everyone has guilt for things that they did or did not do.
Yeah.
You got to manage your own guilt, man.
Yeah.
It isn't my fault that you hurt me.
And I don't think you have to be an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic, to go out and make amends. If you screwed something up.
Right. It's the word amends, I think, that people freak out a little bit about because they're like, oh, that's that 12-step thing. And you're like, yeah, it works for millions of people. It also doesn't work for millions of people.
Right.
But whatever you're doing, try to be one of the people that it works for.
Yeah.
Because the word amends just means to accountability, and reparation.
Yes.
And this type of thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've introduced a book that I have not read.
That
neither of you.
Well,
so
I want to read
books.
it so much. The title is very On Apology.
Well,
it's
you've
very
got Forgive and Forget here.
I do have Forgive and Forget. Boy, was that good at one time when I read it. I read it a long time ago.
It was a keeper.
It was a keeper because it's absolutely miniature. It's a very, very small book, and I absolutely loved it. It got me through it. Whatever. I mean, there
was some healing?
Yeah, there was some healing. A woman broke up with me, and we were together for... Remember how in college you'd get with someone and you would just be with them intensely without barely being out of each other's eyesight?
I witnessed it.
But this was for like a year plus. We lived together just every day.
And you were baby birds.
We were baby birds.
You were like 19, 20?
No, I was like 23. I was in graduate school.
Okay.
So anyhow, she split, here's the weirdest thing. We were together maybe, I'll say 13 months. After 9 months, she had a job interview in a different state, flew in for it. And I thought to myself, while she was gone, I thought, gosh, I hope she gets this thing because this relationship I want for it to be over. So I hoped she would get the job.
Oh, interesting.
She didn't get the job. 4 months later, she leaves town because she got her master's or whatever, and sets up shop in a different city. Breaks up with me remotely, which is
not ideal.
I was crushed.
Yeah.
Now, why would I be crushed? Why would I be?
Because 4 months earlier, you wanted out.
4 months earlier, I wanted out. In retrospectively, I can see I had zero benefit from that relationship, and it wasn't
you were both
good.
done.
We were both done, but I didn't have the guts to leave it. But I was ruined, crushed, hurt. So I had to read this book to forgive and forget her.
And it was written
I think
by
that's when it was
Louis Smedes.
I was big into it. I
S-M-E-D-E-S.
brought several copies and gave them away to people.
Oh, I've done that. I've been there. You got the Artist Way sitting over there. Ted Alexandro did the show the other day.
Yes.
And he brought his wife, and I had stacks of books over there that are going over to the used bookstore so I can get credit. It's more of a lend-lease program I'm doing with the Iliad. And a copy of The Artist Way was over there, and an Ayurvedic dieting book that just talks about sleep and eating that I've pretty much internalized but not acted upon.
I think I'm a pitta.
Right. I'm pretty sure I'm a pitta. No, I might be the slower one.
My fiance makes fun of me a lot because I'm this terrible pitta. I can't, any fluctuation in temperature. I'm made for San Francisco or Seattle or Portland weather.
Is that where you started comedy?
No. Chicago. Which is not for me. Chicago is the worst place for a pitta.
Right. Well,
because pittas can't hate fluctuation in temperature.
And that's all Chicago is. It's all it is.
People complain about the winters in Chicago, but they forget about the 2.5 month unendurable summers.
Right. There is about 3 months spread between each end of summer that is one of the most beautiful places
maybe
in the world.
1 month on either side, but I totally
I'll go
agree.
6 weeks. I'll go 6 weeks.
Yeah.
6 weeks on either side.
Yeah.
And it's real nice. The leaves change. You go down to the lake, and it's cooler by the lake. I don't know if you know this about Chicago. That's one of the things they always say. It's cooler. They say it in Milwaukee all the time as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this. It's cooler down by the lake.
Yeah.
That's funny for us.
It's also more frigid when the wind comes off in
God.
the dead of winter, which extends to April.
Right. So I will say this, though, this forgive and forget, what does it say about forgetting?
I don't frickin' remember.
Oh, there you go.
You know what? The basic tenet is
What'd you take out of this one?
Here's the thing. Here's the basic tenet about all of them, to my mind.
Yeah.
Is that you describe the whole thing, you figure out who did what wrong, you figure out what they did wrong, you figure out why you're not letting it go, you talk it all out. The more you can describe an incident or a relationship or whatever to yourself and to somebody else, the less you're sort of swallowing it.
Right. It's a change of perspective.
Yes.
If you tell somebody else.
Right.
Also, writing it down on the paper helps that, because if you reread something you've written, especially if you read it out loud.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. Even if you read it out loud to yourself.
Really? You do that?
Oh, yeah. You could, I always, whatever I write, I read out loud.
Really?
Yeah. It's like I'm writing this book, and I read each chapter out loud.
Oh, that's
because
great.
First of all, I can hear the grammar errors.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear the language errors, and sometimes the conceptual errors. But whenever I have like some sort of emotional issue or some grumpy Magoo thing that I'm going through, if I write it all out and then I read it aloud.
Wow. I've never read any of it aloud. I never read any of it aloud. I only read aloud stuff that I'm planning to have for the stage. Yeah.
Okay. What I recommend about reading this sort of journal, like a finite journal entry, right?
Yes.
Where you're trying to get something off your chest.
Yeah.
If you read it out loud to yourself, even just to yourself, you will laugh.
Really?
At how absurd you are.
Is that right?
Because you'll hear the perspective. I don't know what it does in my mind, but all of a sudden I can almost hear someone else saying it to me. Yeah. At which point I'll be like, what are you, nuts?
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
She doesn't think that at all. Because I mean, it's one of those realizations where if you read it aloud and you're mad about because someone doesn't believe in you, or there's some sort of drama, and you read it and you're like, she does this or he's like that, and that's what they think about me, and you read it out loud and you're like, he's not thinking about me at all.
I heard Eckhart Tolle on Oprah's Super Soul Sundays book on audiobook I got.
Okay.
And he said he was near suicidal, and he thought, I can't take myself anymore or something.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, wait a minute, that told me that there's a voice who couldn't take some entity. But he said, I realized that the voice wasn't the thing. The voice was a separate thing. It wasn't the actual me. And once I realized there were two people talking, I've had total freedom ever since. That's his.
Right. Well, and I mean, the weird thing about depression or being sad or any of that stuff, if it isn't chemical, is that you get better. Like, it passes. Suicidal thoughts. I've had suicidal thoughts. And
I think everybody has.
I think, I don't know that but I think
Every
I know
comedian has.
a lot of people have, right?
Yeah.
And so, but they pass. The day gets better. There is something to do.
Something funny happens.
Something funny happens, something silly happens, something lovely happens.
Yes.
Go hug a fucking tree. Anyway, but do something. But I mean, it's move your feet. Like whenever I have stage fright, if I physically move my feet, it goes away.
You get stage fright?
It's a long story about Last Comic Standing. Never got it before. And then Last Comic Standing put a fucking camera in my face for 32 hours. And then it drove me nuts. It literally fucking drove me nuts.
Oh, wow.
So, fuck you, NBC, Last Comic Standing, and everyone who had anything to do with it. You could eat a fucking bullet.
There you go.
Because I never had stage fright.
Huh.
Do you get stage fright?
No.
See?
I used to, and then I didn't.
What was it just nervousness, or was it a frozen stage fright? Because I get nervous.
I separate it into two different things. I sometimes feel kind of accurate trepidation. If I feel like they're not going to go for me, then I'll feel gloomy about that prospect.
That's not stage fright.
It's not stage fright. I don't really feel stage fright.
Right. And I don't think you ever have.
No, I did in the beginning.
You were frozen.
Not frozen.
That's not stage fright then.
Well,
by
I would feel
definition,
nerves and butterflies, but then now I don't feel any of that. Never. No butterflies, no nerves anymore.
So even when you do a live, for 11,000 people.
Oh, like a big important show?
Yeah. You get nerves.
Not so much.
New room nerves?
Not
it's
so
an
much.
accurate trepidation about how it's going to go?
An accurate trepidation I will have. That's like a pre-sorrow if I can sense that they're not my kind of crowd.
Right, that's just nerves, right?
Right.
So I think we all have that. And if you don't have that, that's actually its own problem.
It kind of is its own problem because people amble on to stage as though they're walking from their bedroom to the bathroom, and you're like, can you please spike it up a little bit?
Put a little effort into it.
Put a little effort into it. I want to see that you mean this.
Right, please don't phone it in.
Yes.
It's one of my least favorite things.
Me too.
So, but what I'm fascinated about this book, though, is Lewis Smedis. He wants you to forgive and forget.
Yeah.
What are you forgetting?
I think you write it off.
Okay.
Like I came across just today, my ex-wife mailed me a big box of papers, and I saw like an old owner's manual for a Mazda that's long since gone from my life and her life, and an old
Maybe
Mazda.
even the world.
So you just throw, undoubtedly even the world. So I threw away the owner's manual, and I think that's what the author's saying. Like at some point you have to write it off. It's just a gone thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So you have to just let history bury it.
Fair enough. What is this? How to get control of your time and your life?
One. My dad had that one.
That's.
I was a little kid when I first acquired that one, and you'll see I have probably insane underlinings in that. But that's an old one.
This is 73.
It's called How to Get Control of Your Time and Your Life, it's just beautiful, that book.
He's a renowned time management consultant.
This is wonderful. You would love this one. It's hilarious.
Oh, it's funny.
No, it's not intentionally funny.
Oh, that's too bad.
But he's so
wait a minute.
What's the word? Without irony about the whole thing.
Is he just ambitious? How to use waiting time. Make your sleep work for you. Oh my God.
It's wonderful.
This has created the problems that we have today. That's what this book has done.
Yeah.
My dad used to read a bunch of these as well, and we used to listen to motivational speakers when I was a kid.
Yeah. I like them too. Do you like them? Do you listen to them?
No, I don't listen to them.
They're fun. And what's it gonna? Here's my feeling. What's it gonna hurt?
Right. That's what I always think about. Sort of hippy skippy doctors. Like I went to any number of acupuncturists and in various degrees of good at it, right? Skilled chiropractors and all these things. And I always thought to myself, what's the worst thing they're going to do? Tell me to eat kale? It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Now you've got some professional books in here.
Yeah, I do.
This Michael Caine one is a trip.
Oh, that's wonderful. He's great. It just makes you want to be on set all the time so you can enact the things he's saying.
Right. It's called Acting in Film, Michael Caine, an actor's take on movie making. And one of the things, it's in my bathroom. I do some rereading of it sometimes. And one of my favorite things that he's always talking about being on time and respecting the art. What we were just talking about. Don't phone it in.
No, don't phone it in. Michael doesn't want you to phone it in.
No. He's like, you said you would do this.
Yeah, he takes it very seriously. He complains about actors who are working on their next project in their trailer. He says you stay in your trailer in a state of tension about the thing you're about to do, or in a state of intense focus.
Yeah, and he wrote it, and so it's really funny. Or he co-wrote it, maybe. Yeah. But now how to audition for the camera?
Oh, I love that one.
Sharon Bailey.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Director. Forward by Bryan Cranston.
Yeah,
that's kind of amazing.
They cast
Breaking Bad,
Better Call Saul, and frickin' all the things.
And this is
lots and lots and lots of huge projects. Barry,
2012.
Yeah, that one's
the weird
great.
thing is she's a casting director. I never think those people have any time. They're some of the busiest people in Hollywood.
They are.
They're just like it's a
they
90
absolutely
hour.
Are.
It's like a 90-hour job.
They're besieged.
Yeah,
but for whatever reason, she wrote this book, and it's great. And in here, the thing I love about this book is she gives lots and lots of little practical advice, and it's all good advice. But most books about acting, they're so up their own butts. They're unreadable. They render themselves unreadable.
Kind of insufferable.
Her main thing is that she says, look, you kind of know what to do. The problem is a lot of people, she doesn't quite say most, don't do what they know they have to do enough. She sort of says, don't come in and ask me when the callbacks are. That's annoying. It's presumptuous, and you can get the information elsewhere. She says, work and work and work and work and work and work on the scene, and then come in and give me your best frickin' scene. Version of the scene. So she doesn't really tell you how to act. She sort of challenges you, and she cites that other book called Peak over there.
Yeah.
Which is about just peak performance, which is see, I can feel listeners cringing as they're hearing me talk.
This people who love these books are taking notes. So people who don't love these books probably are listening to a different episode.
Right.
So don't worry about it. But the thing is this is essentially there's a theme through all of these, which is do the work that you were hired to do.
Yes.
And auditioning seems to be, and I do not. You know that I've done very few auditions.
Is that right?
And I've done very few acting.
I've heard you talk about an audition on stage.
I get one once or twice a year. I'll get an audition. Okay. But the weird thing is it's its own job. You know,
I happen to love it, which I'm almost alone in that.
Yeah, you are.
But I enjoy it.
You enjoy it. You enjoy the process and all of it?
Yeah, I enjoy getting all riled up. Yeah. I enjoy the challenge of it, and if it's a funny scene, I enjoy trying to get a laugh in the room, which is exactly like doing stand-up.
Right.
From this little fake depiction of whatever that you're doing.
Right, when you just have a 2.5-page scene taken out of context.
Or a 2 or 3 line scene.
Right, just 1 page.
Yeah, I get a kick out of that for sure.
Huh. All right. Oh, what is Zen and the Art of Stand-Up Comedy? Jay Sankey.
Yeah.
What's that like?
My cousin recommended that before I ever did stand-up, and as you can see, I highlighted stuff within it.
Yeah, you did.
It's very pleasant. He's kind of a Zen guy. He's ruminative. He's not
wiggly, shouty comic?
No, he's not wiggly or shouty. I've never even seen any of his stand-up. Presumably it's out there. But it's
he's a cross between Charles Manson and the Little Prince. He's a great talent for physical work combined with his offbeat material, and that makes for tremendous results.
Well, I kind of brought that book to.
He seems like a sweetheart.
He is a sweetheart, and he's. I mean, most stand-up comedians would say that any class that is about stand-up or any book that tells you to do stand-up, there's only one way to do it. You got to get up there and do it. I mean, that's fine. But what's a class going to hurt? What's a book going to hurt? It's not going to hurt.
It's like kale. It's literally not going to hurt. Actually, I have met instances where it could hurt. There's a story that I tend to tell. There was a woman who taught stand-up comedy in Minneapolis in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. And the first class of this 6-week show, a 6-week class, she just have everyone just walk up to the stage, take the mic out of the mic stand, move the mic stand to the side, set themselves, grab the mic stand, put the mic stand back in, and then walk off stage. She was like, just get used to being on stage. And I was like, oh, because she herself was a terrible comedian. She was not funny. She was not exciting. But what she taught was the mechanics, and she taught, and I think by osmosis, literally just the mechanics of pulling the mic out and getting on stage and getting off stage, not running the light, just sort of real practical stuff.
Right.
And then she was such a terrible comic that I'm sure everyone I know who took that class left thinking, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
And she didn't tell anyone what to write. There was another guy who taught stand-up comedy classes in Minneapolis, and he was also not a great comic, but he had a definition of what was funny. And that's where it falls apart, I think.
Oh, yes, it does. Yeah, that's right. And so this book about acting, Audition for the Camera, how to audition on camera, she doesn't tell you how to act. She's not real big on, most acting books are say, get a smell, associate it to a tangential, your quadra objective, and that will undergird your spatial sensations. And you're like, what?
I didn't bring my thesaurus. If you could just and quit line reading me.
Yeah.
Quit telling me how I should read the line.
Thank you. Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, how do you tell somebody to act without defaulting to that level of micromanagement? It's almost impossible to do. So I understand the difficulty of the task of
I think
explaining
teaching people
acting.
to act probably is harder than teaching stand-up.
Yeah.
Because stand-up, you can just you can rein people in. That's the only real, like I met with a nice guy, one of the very young, he's only a year and a half in. He was like, I'd love to take you out for coffee and pick your brain. And I'm like, sure, I like coffee. And so we went out for coffee. He was a very nice young man. And but he was telling me that he does a character that's based on his childhood. And I was like, well, why don't you just be you, which is also based on your childhood? Mm-hmm. And he was like, I like the idea of a character. I mean, he liked the disconnect from stand-up. And I was like, I mean, do whatever you want, especially with stand-up. Yeah. But because the audience will let you know.
Yeah.
That isn't working.
Oh, they will.
And so, I was like, I wonder if there's a way I could rein in this character business, because it wasn't a true character. It wasn't a true character. It was actually a character of, it was literally it was him and a part of him that he didn't want to address. Uh-huh. And so he decided to make it a character. And you're like, well, just address it. That's where the real comedy, I think, could come from. But obviously, I also said, do whatever the hell you want. Yeah. A year and a half in, do something.
When new people learn that you're a comedian, a lot of times, or people who have a knack that they might want to do comedy, learn that you're a comedian. I've had several times people say, yeah, but the open mics are just so dismal. And you want to say, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way to do it other than to take off your shoes and socks and run across the glass 12 football fields that you have to run across. There's no other way. There's no safe way around that.
And this guy was a year and a half in, and he does this open mic here in the Valley, the San Fernando Valley, it costs $5. Mm-hmm. You get 5 minutes. They lock the door so everybody has to watch everybody else. But it's only 45 minutes. So he's like, 8 people go up, 5 minutes each. You all have to watch each other. It's $5 each. But in 45 minutes, it's over.
So who gets the $40?
Oh, the guy. The guy's making a fortune. The guy, because he's got 8 shows a night. 8
No.
times 8 times $5.
8 times 40, that's $320.
Yeah, a night. And he does it 4 or 5
And that
nights.
doesn't include a drink or anything.
No, you don't get a drink or anything.
Of course, he's got to pay rent and all that.
He's got to pay rent, and that's it. Probably some chairs he purchased and a mic stand. Those are one-time purchases. But if he's making $340 a night and he's doing 8 of them, 304, well, whatever,
$320 a night, cash.
and he's doing it 4 nights a week.
What do you mean lock the doors? Is that safe? What if it catches fire?
Right. Well, it's not the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. I mean, they're not gonna totally.
Or a poultry factory, It seems like those
They're
are
not chained to the mic stand. They, he's just like, you cannot leave because you have to support the other comics. But I was explaining to this young man because he's been doing regular open mics and he's been doing that open mic for a year and a half, right? Now, he did his first booked show and he realized that the jokes he was writing for the comics in that room are much darker, much edgier, much weirder than normal people because
can absorb.
Yeah, they don't have
at first pass.
Right, they don't have the context.
I had exactly that conflict.
Yes, we all did.
Yeah.
Because you're playing to the comics in the back of the room and you're like, oh, I need to make Jim laugh. I love Jim.
Yeah,
Jim's really funny.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, there's, what about the couple?
Yeah.
What about Bill and Helen?
Yeah, you got to make the couple laugh. You got to figure out that tight walk.
Somewhere between the two of them. Anyway, so, Zen and the Art of Stand-Up Comedy. I'm sure it can't hurt.
Well, no,
and with
it
all
can't
of these books, you take what you want, right?
You take what you want. Some of them are great. Some of them aren't. And the thing is, there's a genre now because of TED Talks of like an intellectual, sociological self-help book. So they're basically self-help books, but they've got
science?
Yeah.
Pretend science? Real science?
Well, both. Mixed. Mm-hmm. So they're sort of like they kind of give you scientific examples and sort of sociological data, and they refer to this study and that study. So they're much more palatable for people who don't want to admit that they like self-help books.
Now, are you looking for, like, in a lot of these, it's the same message over and over again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, Janet, my fiance, says she's got an app called Blinkist.
Okay.
Which is 15-minute summaries of all these damn nonfiction books.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Because she says most of them now, a lot of these books or this genre, is a good essay turned into a book, which is to say quadrupled or, sextupled in size. And they say exactly what you're saying, Jackie, is the same damn thing again and again and again and again and again and again and again.
Which isn't bad. I mean, we need the repetition when will we finally learn the thing?
Right.
It's like what's in creative visualization probably
Do you
helps.
do this, Jackie? I want to ask you this.
Please.
Do you think, well, at 1/2 I'll really kick into gear. Like it's 23 past and I'm really enjoying this like Twitter cloud that I'm in. At 30 past, real life's going to start and I'm going to click into place, boy. And then I'm really going to nail it all of life.
I have a timer. Can you see a timer underneath my
yeah, I can.
It's set at 30 minutes. And sometimes I hit it and then I'm like 30 minutes from I'm going to screw around for 30 minutes. I'm going to play Marvel Puzzle Quest or whatever thing. I'm going to reread this book that I've been rereading for 30 years.
Stoke my own fury about Trump for another 12 minutes.
Or go into a spiral on Facebook or Twitter or read an article that's just going to infuriate me.
Yes.
And for 30 minutes, then this thing's going to go off. And then I'm going to turn it all down.
You're just going to kick it all into place. And you're really going to get after it. Finally, all these years, man, are you going to nail it all? Because you're not going to dick around anymore. And you're not going to spiral off into distractions anymore. Self-doubt.
For weeks, I put off writing the second chapter that I had to submit for this writing thing, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm writing it, and it's the sex scene in a romance novel. Mm-hmm. And I was embarrassed, and I didn't want to do it. And I was all like, it's going to be gross. And I'm like, you read them all the time. What are you killing yourself over?
I love that you gave your voice of truth was a little bit lower in tone. It's a little quieter.
I think it's my dad. I think it's like, what are you hiding from? What are you hiding from the truth over here? Who gives a shit?
You use that voice on stage all the time, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
It's to really good effect. It's the other truer voice. It's undercutting.
Well, because my father is right 85% of the time, and 15% of the time. Here's the joke. He hands you a monkey's paw, and you may literally go insane because he's lost his damn mind. Anyway, but 85% of the time, his self-absorption and one of the greatest things about Elliot Cation is his glass half full mentality. You know, he was just in the hospital because he had an infection. Hilariously, Andy goes, "Finally, chlamydia. Is that what happened?" And but he could have taken it was not chlamydia. He could have taken antibiotics oral, right, just pills,
right.
But he was like, "No, bring me into the VA, hook me up to a intravenous thing 3 times a day, and then we'll knock it out in 4 days instead of a 6-week run, right?" And so he goes in, and he's like, "It's like a spa week going into the." And I'm like, "You're 81. That's where people die, Dad." And he's like, "No, they bring you a cup of coffee anytime you want. There's a lot of pretty nurses around. It's nice." And
Dad.
And so he got out, I guess, 2 days ago, and I haven't talked to him, but my brother goes, all Dad had to say about getting out of the hospital, he was like, "Next day was hot dog day. I don't understand. We were going to watch the Brewers, and we're going to watch. It was a hot dog day."
So he was bummed that he had to leave?
Yeah. Because the thing is he's a social animal.
Yeah.
But everything for the good thing about, some of the good things about his self-absorption is that he genuinely is encouraging.
Yeah.
He's like, "I don't understand why you don't just do what you want." It's like, "Well, because I'm worried about what other," and he's like, "La, la, 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 la." I stopped listening.
Right.
It's like, "I'm worried about what other people think." He's like, I don't understand that language. What did you say?" So, my ad. I'm about to do an ad. You guys, I'm really into FabFitFun. Sign up for FabFitFun today. They're boxes. They make amazing gifts for the holidays, actually. And if you use my code DORK, you get $10 off your first box. So go to fabfitfun.com to sign up and start getting the box for a life well lived. Use the promo code DORK to get $10 off your first box. That's over $200 for only $39.99. Go to fabfitfun.com and use my code DORK to get $10 off your first FabFitFun box. You guys, I got the winter box, and it's really, really fun. I'm in. Things are fabulous. Things are fun. There's fitness involved. I have yet to see the fitness, but that's because I'm never looking for fitness. So far, my favorite thing that I've gotten is a thing called yoga. YOGAHHH! ! Exclamation point. It's a detox bath thing, and you put it in the bath, and then you get to have a nice bath with that smells good and got like Epsom salt in it, but I don't think it has Epsom salt. Anyway, it's a big thing of yoga, detox bath, and that clearly is my favorite thing. Here's the thing. In every box, there's cosmetics and there's some eyeshadow, which I never buy enough eyeshadow. So the fact that FabFitFun sends me a box of lipstick, eyeshadow. There were earbuds in the last box that was amazing. I actually really like FabFitFun, you guys. So go to fabfitfun.com, use my code DORK, and get $10 off your first box. It's full-size stuff, really fun, and it would make a really good present for the holidays. Let's get back into the show. Talk to me about creative visualization.
Oh, that one's good. Now, she is absolutely the most Malibu, Santa Monica, hippy dippy.
Yeah.
But this started a zillion people talk about this stuff. Oh, creative visualization. And what she says is, if you say to yourself in writing, in speech, whatever, and absolutely in vivid detail, visualize the successful thing that you want in a way, and this is the Malibu Santa Monica part, in a way that will only lead to better things for everyone at all times. That's how she gets around.
Right.
I'm going to get it and you're not.
Yeah.
In a way that is fully, fulfilling for all people at all times. The good thing cannot help but come to me now. And she says, usually it's sooner rather than later.
Well,
but it's great. It's great.
But because the takeaway
it's horrible,
from
but
that,
it's great.
Right. Because the takeaway from that is think good thoughts about what you want out of life and try not to, and think about the abundance that is there.
Yeah.
And it's okay to want things.
Yeah.
As long as you're not, and I think that's implied is that as long as you don't want the harm of other people.
Right.
Your creative visualization, again, what does it hurt?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt anything. And more than that, it freaking helps. It can work. And it's so embarrassing to admit that you need and want these things.
Creative visualization.
The Secret probably wouldn't have happened without this book, or I should think. I mean, I don't freaking know. I don't know why I'm making that line in the sand.
Is if you go back, who wrote Richard Bach is who I'm thinking of. He wrote Seagull. Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
I love that book when I was a kid. I love that book.
Well, I never read Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I read something when I was 19 called Illusions. Illusions. Ooh. Robert Buscemi. It was called Illusions, and it was essentially creative visualization. It was about a guy who got it, man. He flew a biplane, this guy. He flew a biplane from town to town and gave rides to people who wanted to ride in a biplane. And
it's a novel or like a parable.
It's a parable. And it's a novel.
And it's by the same guy who did Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Yes, Richard Bach. And I was 19 when I read it, and it was entirely about creative visualization and The Secret and think good thoughts and stuff.
I gotta get that one.
And I spent a summer living in Wisconsin Dells, stacked like cordwood with other roommates, working 90 hours a week at a t-shirt shop. We sold seconds and irregulars, and parked out in front of that, and I wanted a car. And I creatively visualized there was a car parked in front of my t-shirt shop for like a week and a half. And I was like, that's my car. I bet you that's my car, because I read Illusions.
Yeah.
And I was 19. And I think we could safely say that I was mostly drunk most of the time. So there was all kinds of terribles going on. But luckily, I said, one day I'm going to just open up the car door there. And if the keys are in it, I'm going to say it's mine. And luckily, I never opened that car door, and someone came and picked up their own fucking car.
Yeah.
I like the idea of just using something like creative visualization to think yourself out of negative thoughts.
Yeah.
To stop beating yourself up 100 times a day.
Well, I think the line where it gets uncomfortable and absurd for people is when you fear that you're going to want something too literally. That you're going to, just exactly like you at 19 wanting that specific car.
Right.
And so people sense that that's absurd, and so they recoil from the overall message, which is, you're going to nail the audition or whatever. It's embarrassing to even say aloud. Why is it embarrassing to say aloud?
I don't know, because...
But it is.
But we're raised to not want things, or not to vocalize what we want. Some people are. Other people have no problem. Just take.
That they don't, do they?
I don't think
they really
do.
Don't. And you know what? A lot of the time, it freaking works.
And it works.
Like tsunami level entitlement, self-entitlement.
Right. And self-fulfilling prophecy. I was talking to the young comic guy, because he is a very handsome young white gentleman. And I was like, because he brought it up. He said, there are disadvantages, we were talking about the privilege of being a white and the privilege of being a white dude. And it's not that your life isn't hard. It's just, you don't have the disadvantages of other people. You get a pass on things that other people have to.
And how did he take that?
Oh, he was great. He was like, that does make sense, because the way my tiny parable to young boy comics is that nobody's handing you 20s under the table, but also nobody is checking your bag when you leave a store.
Right.
You know, nobody is assuming that you're stealing. Nobody is assuming that you're doing these horrible things. So, but I said, the other thing you got to know is that everybody else, like for some reason, young white men have always, and men in general, more, even men of people of color, are taught to be squeaky wheels. And women, and like booking this, the Dork Forest, I get more straight white guys who are like, just check it in. And thus they get booked more often. Like I get, you know, a black woman who's like, no, I want to do the Dork Forest. And then months will go by. And I was like, did you want to still do it? And she's like, yeah, I didn't want to bother you. And I was like, no. And I was raised by Elliot Cation, who says, no, the sale doesn't happen unless you ask 100 times.
Was he a salesman?
Oh, yeah, aluminum siding.
Oh, my gosh. It sounds like what you would make up as a product to give to a salesman if you didn't know what they sold.
It's
aluminum siding.
Yeah, very much so. It's he's really good at it, but it's all a numbers game.
But you know, Jackie, all this stuff about learning to sell and getting all these books and trying to visualize stuff is just trying to slide your mind over to something that comes naturally to somebody who is enormously, insanely entitled to begin with.
Right.
So we're trying to simulate their behavior.
Right.
Or their mindset or something.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, the thing is you use these books to enhance your own sense of self-worth and to remind yourself that you are worthy of some of these things, right? You're allowed to
that's true.
To do these things that other people are like, no, of course I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And then a third group doesn't read these books maybe and doesn't think that they're worthy of anything.
Yeah.
And so this is an artificial Band-Aid to try to remind yourself that you are not a piece of shit.
Yeah.
That you should not be left on the wayside. You're like, oh, that's right. Because all of these have another thing. They're all about action.
Yeah, they are.
They aren't just read this book.
No. In fact, I struggle to go back to fiction these days.
Okay.
Because it doesn't, immediately tell me to go out and take action.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't necessarily, I feel like
I recommend some books for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some fiction.
I love good fiction, or I did historically, but I have fallen away from it for sure.
I have to force myself to read nonfiction, quite honestly, because fiction is, it's inspirational for me, much like these books are. You know, they're in the way that you're like, oh, look at that underdog. You know?
Yeah.
He or she, that child was a mess. They were left out in the wilderness. Yeah. There's a book by Louis L'Amour about two, like a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old that are left in the wilderness and who make it back to
the Western novelist.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's set in the Old West, and it's just them and a horse. And this is a book that an 11-year-old girl like myself would have frickin' loved. And let me tell you something about the 53-year-old woman. She also enjoys such a tale. 'Cause it's a tale of not giving up.
Right.
And to some extent, much like these encourage you to keep trying.
Right.
And remind you to keep trying. That's what fiction often does for me.
So they don't eat the horse?
They do not eat the horse because the horse, if they can get on top of that horse is going to eat the miles. They're going to make it back to Fort Bridger. Yeah. But you know who wants that horse? Because it's a real nice horse.
Who?
Well, bad guys. Bad guys are going to want that horse. There's a Native American guy who thinks that these two kids, they're pretty great. Maybe he won't kill the kids, but he definitely wants that horse. And then there's some bad guy white guys who are definitely going to kill those kids and take that horse because they want that horse.
Yeah. What's the horse's name?
Oh, I think he just calls him Red because it's a big roan. It's a giant. And he's got to find a rock so that he can boost up the little girl.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, that is inspirational.
Yeah, but he doesn't have like a saddle or anything.
Huh.
Yeah. It's pretty inspirational because they don't give up.
You got to read Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Right. I think, you don't think that there's a window that I've missed?
No, hell no. You'd love it.
Hitchhiker's
First of all,
Guide
it's short.
Super short.
And it's just a seagull who wants to fly higher than the other seagulls and whatever. And he just thinks for the whole book.
Oh, instead of flying? Instead of practicing?
No. Instead of, flying at a level that allows him to see the fish. I'm misremembering it and making this up at some point. But the parable is about wanting to soar to new heights or whatever. I loved it at the time.
Sure. Well, aspiration, right?
Hell yeah.
All right, let's try the next one. This kind of grabs me here. Rules for Agent.
Oh, it's really, really good. This actually...
Roger Rosenblatt.
Yeah, he's a newspaper man. I think probably a wry editorialist or something from whatever era. I don't know much about him, but I absolutely love this book.
It's short, too.
It's very short.
And it's light.
Now, this one, alone in the whole pack, is actually intentionally funny. And it is very, very funny.
The Rules for Aging is intentionally funny.
In the entire group of 14
all the books that you brought.
This one is very, very, very funny.
It's a wry and witty guide to life.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And People Magazine says it's smart and to the point. And look what I opened it up to. It's not about you.
Yeah.
In the late 1970s, I was writing columns and editorials for the Post. Because I knew nothing about any particular subject, it fell to me to write the paper's editorial whenever a prominent person died. Okay, so frequently did I write such pieces that I soon became known by my colleagues as Mr. Death. Not the most cheerful nickname, but at least it indicated a minor skill. When Golda Meir passed away, from Milwaukee... Hello.
Really?
Yep. Mr. Death was called upon to write an homage to her life and accomplishments. Rather than recite known facts, I wanted to get at least one quote from someone who had known her personally. I was referred to a powerful columnist at the time who I phoned with my request. Could you tell me something especially revealing about Miss Meir? I asked him. Oh, yes, he said at once. We were very close, I shall never forget the day she leaned forward and told me, you are without question the best columnist in America. Okay.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Mm-hmm. I mean, the point, it's great. It's funny, but I remember so much from this book, messages like that, because there's another book written by an FBI agent called The Like Switch, and it's how to get people to like you. That's all it is. And it's so good. And it's exactly along the lines of that little passage you just wrote, which is
don't make it about you.
Nobody's even if you do try to make it about you, nobody will listen. So just let other people yammer on about whatever they want to.
And they
pretend
will like
to be consulting their, pretend to be soliciting people's advice. That's what the Like Switch guy says. And that's what Roger Rosenblatt says. He says, pretend, consult people. And whatever you decide, they'll take ownership over whatever next move you make.
Oh my God.
And you can thank them for their invaluable advice, which they won't even remember what they told you to do.
Right.
But then they can tell their friends, oh yeah, I always liked that kid. Because what they like about that kid, meaning you, is that you were smart enough to consult with them personally.
Wow.
So everybody's insanely self-involved, and your only job is to coast along on the upward, hot air vents that they're all emitting. And if they have real power, then they can get you something that you want because you will have flattered their lame asses. I
have to tell you that you've just, I think, defined the dork forest. Is I let people talk for 1 hour about what they love a lot. But I am actually... that is, talk about self-fulfilling prophecy. I have become entirely fascinated by what people love.
Yeah.
Last night I was talking to this other comic, and he was telling me that he loves AC/DC. And I was
They're
like,
a great band.
Which is all I know about them. And I think they did Back in Black. Am I correct?
They did a lot more than that. They're a sensational band.
That's what I hear from this young man.
They're like a dirty version. They're like a dirty, non-Satan oriented, although they were a little Satan oriented. They're like heavy rock without quite being
heavy metal.
They're not quite metal. They didn't have the iconography of metal and the leather daddy outfits and the Satan power stuff. They just were a kind of good old rock and roll band, and they're insanely good.
Are they?
two singers. The first guy, drowned in somebody else's vomit or whatever he did. He was wonderful. And then Back in Black.
I find out that Robert Buscemi also AC/DC dork.
Oh, they're such a sensationally good band.
Well, and he was fascinated by the whole thing. So, all right, we're just going to keep going on these books, by the way. We're going to step away because we're going to let young Grant tell me about his name's Grant. Anyway,
Lion, maybe.
Grant Lion,
maybe.
True and False by Mamet. I used to own this book, never read it. Never read it.
It's good.
It's a good one. Heresy and Common Sense for the Actor.
Yeah, that one's great because he's kind of a total dick in the book. He just chews you out.
Shocking.
And now you talk about advice about acting.
Yeah.
If you follow his advice,
yeah,
you'll be absolutely the most wooden actor in history, which
really?
A lot of his actors in his films wind up being.
Okay.
Very wooden.
Because of the way he directs?
Because of the way he views acting and obviously, passes along to his actors that he wants them to.
So what was great about True and False?
But what is great about it, I think the acting advice is the worst I've ever read.
Okay.
But what's great about the book and what the majority of the book discusses is how to just own your desire to be on stage.
Oh, interesting.
And to act and to write and to be the artist of the theater that you want to be. Not only be okay with it, but to absolutely worship it as a sacred thing that you do and are doing. And it's fantastic. It's like, it's comically direct. It's comically specific that we're all going to die. He keeps saying 11 o'clock will come. I think that's an exact phrase. And he mentions it over and over. And just like with his plays and whatever, it's elliptical, but you know what it means.
Okay.
And he says he inveighs against inherited wealth a lot, which some people do. Some people inveigh against inherited wealth as a huge theme in their lives. I don't quite know why.
What's the word you're using? Inveigh?
Inveigh against.
How do you spell it?
INVEIGH. Inveigh.
Oh, interesting. So they
decry.
I've only seen it in writing. I don't know that I've ever. Thank you.
I'm weird that way.
It's a good word. It's a good word.
You.
So he's all twitchy about. Some people are about where you're like silver spoon comic.
Hate them.
But then what if they're good at it anyway? Like you look at John Mulaney. John Mulaney was born with a silver spoon up his butt, and he's also a pretty fit, handsome, normal featured dude. But he is a damn hilarious human being.
He is,
which could infuriate you.
Yeah,
if you didn't also realize, well, it's not his fault.
I'm with you. I don't have a particular chip on my shoulder about people with inherited wealth. I have a chip on my shoulder if they're obnoxious and don't kind of appreciate that most people don't have any version of that.
Right.
That's obnoxious, but I don't find it
inherently evil or inherently bad.
I don't at all.
There's nothing they could have done about it. And possibly they've been raised with a noblesse oblige.
Right.
Look at Amy Schumer. She's trying to use her powers for good. Well, good for you, young Amy Schumer, who was also clearly raised not suffering.
Yeah. I wasn't raised. Here's the thing about the issue. The reason I don't have a particular chip on my shoulder about it is that I was raised comfortably middle class. Mm-hmm. And they paid for my college, and I didn't, have to get a job real early or. And I've gotten plenty of advantages, and I live in the, America and whatever. Yeah. It's, I got enough education that I could earn. I'm self-aware that
enough to know that these are advantages that you got.
Yeah, I had plenty of advantages. And
right. Some people have more of them.
Some have more.
A lot of people have less.
Most have less. So I don't make a big stink about it.
Right.
But David Mamet does. But he sort of says, here's what he does. I remember he says, if you need money, then you'll bust your ass in theater and on stage and as a writer and actor and performer
as a
and
work ethic.
Filmmaker, as a work ethic.
He thinks it creates work ethic.
And he yells that. And it's pretty great. It's fun to read because it's inspiring. He's like, other people leave the theater at 9 p.m. Not you.
I've met some very
That's great.
lazy rich people. I've also met some very lazy people of my own economic strata.
Right.
And it's whatever it is. I mean, work ethic, having a job is different than work ethic, you know?
Right.
I mean, everyone has a survival instinct.
Right. Right.
So,
they are two different things, aren't they?
yes.
But you want to have a crazy work ethic. I do.
Well, we were raised here in the United States of America where it is worshipped more so than absolutely than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he thinks that having that work ethic, and he's not wrong. I mean, having that work ethic will help anything that you do, that sort of concentration. Yes. So talk about visualization. It's like whatever you concentrate on, you will get better at. If you practice basketball 4 hours a day, you will be a better basketball player.
Right.
So that's fascinating. What about, now what we got here, more acting. Brian O'Neill?
Oh, I love that one.
Oh, acting as a business.
Acting as a business.
Strategies for success.
I love that one. Here's what I love about that one. He says, and I've used this ever since. Okay. I read this at 23 or whatever.
Here's tips.
He says, basically what he says is, just pound the pavement. Go to the casting office. Go to the agent's office. Nobody, and I actually believe this and I've used it ever since. Nobody, when you walk into an office with a envelope with somebody's name on it, and hand it to whoever's ever in that office, whether they have a front door person or not, nobody's going to send you out because the UPS people do it every day, all the time. Right. And if you deliver paper stuff, snail mail, they will open it. They will glance at it.
It's almost impossible for them not to open
it. It's almost impossible for them not to.
That's what they count on for junk mail. But if you walk, so what are you walking in? This was written in 93, I see.
Right.
So, I mean, could someone today bring their headshot in and resume?
many times.
I bring in casting people.
I bring in snacks.
Oh, you're just
with a note
that says, "Hey, I'm an actor."
It says, "Hey, just did the, Phoenix Comedy Festival, Bird City Comedy Festival in Phoenix. Had a great time. Also about to appear on Grace and Frankie.
Yep.
Enjoy the snacks, Robert." And it's a bag and it's got 3 healthy looking little snack baggies in it. And I will drive and park and walk up to the casting office and put it, walk in and say.
Hand it to the receptionist.
Yeah. My line is, "Got to keep casting fed." And I smile and I leave.
Right.
And that's that.
And then casting people remember your name because you are a squeaky wheel. You're doing it.
Hell yeah.
You know what? Acting for as a business, Brian is not wrong, and neither are you. That seems like a really good idea. As a matter of fact, it's sort of what I do with avails. I send my avails whether people book me or not. Right. I send my avails every 3 months.
Right.
I let them know that I've done a new thing.
Yeah.
And I say, I still do stand-up comedy, by the way. If you were to, you still have a club. We could gather together and do things.
Right.
And how about the war of art? Break through the blocks and win your inner creative belt.
Well, the author must not have written that subtitle.
Because that's a lot. Break through the blocks and win your inner creative
battles. That's not his mode. His mode is, it's actually extremely well written. He's a prominent screenwriter, I want to say. Yeah,
he wrote Pressfield.
Yeah. He wrote some screenplay about the golfer. Who knows? Something.
It's a straight from the hip examination of the internal obstacles to success.
Yeah.
He's a best-selling author.
Yeah. So that's a great book. Jared Logan recommended that book to me.
Okay, Jared Logan, Ren Fair Dork Forest. Yeah. That's what he talked about, the Renaissance Festival.
So he recommended that book, and I got it, and it sat on my shelf for some years, and then I read it, and it's excellent. He says, look, you got your fucking thing you want to do. You got your thing you want to do. You got your screenplay. You know what it is. Or you want to go do stand-up. You know damn well you want to do the thing.
Right.
And he's a writer, and he's kind of talking about writing, but of course it applies to all arts. He says, you know what the damn thing is.
Right.
Sit down and start it. He says,
start it.
He says there's a constant war of a zillion things within you that are saying, oh no, tomorrow, not today, don't do it, do it, got to do this thing, got to run errands, got to do this thing. He says it's a demon. He kind of personifies the
he anthropomorphizes
he
the bad guy.
anthropomorphizes the bad guy or
Voice in your head. Yeah.
What does he call it? He calls it something.
Stephen Pressfield.
Yeah, and he identifies it very, very specifically. It's the whatever his notion of the thing is.
Right.
That tries to get you to not do your art. And he says you got to put that thing on a shelf and you have to fight that thing your whole life because it will try at every opportunity and it will never stop to keep you from the thing.
Yeah, from varying degrees of whatever.
And a zillion different methods.
And what I like about all of these books is that, sure, it's about writing the great American novel or screenplay or becoming an actor or a musician or whatever.
Right.
It can also apply to, I've always wanted to learn Latin.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to.
Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Oh my God.
That's that book. Is about just a creative life.
I have that.
In learning Latin. About learning Latin.
She read the book. Karen Rontowski gave me the audiobook of it.
Yeah.
She wrote Eat, Pray, Fuck or something, right?
Eat, Pray, Love.
That's it. Eat, pray, go around the world and sleep with people.
Yeah.
And, but that is actually, and it's in my car, one of the discs, like disc 3 of 5. Yeah. And I was like, I wonder what that is. And I put it in because it was in the jewel case for Deadpool. Anyway, so it's a weird, and so I just listened to that again. But what I like about it is that you can take all of this information and learn how to be an electrician.
That's right.
Or a plumber.
That's right.
Whatever thing you've always wanted to learn how to do.
That's right.
You can at least try it.
Yeah.
And you'll know almost immediately whether you want to continue to do it.
Yeah.
Certainly stand up. And I think plumbing. Robert Buscemi, you should know it's been an hour.
Has it?
Yeah. Yeah, we got through half the books.
It flew by. Yeah. I can't believe I'm impressed that we got through half the books.
Yeah. I'm on task. I'm over here going, well, here's a stack of books. Let's talk. And we addressed many of the big issues. Many of the big issues were addressed in this episode of The Dark Forest. Robert Buscemi can be found at Robert Buscemi or robertbuscemi.com. It's Buscemi.
Buscemi. Which is phonetic in Italian. There's no H's to form the sh. It's SC. Buscemi.
There we go.
Yeah.
So Robert Buscemi. And then it's at Robert Buscemi on Twitter and Instagram. And then you have a couple of albums that they can go get.
I do.
Where albums are found. One's called Palpable and one's called One Pretty Peacock.
Yeah. And I have CDs, which are less viable as a sale. Do you sell CDs?
I do.
You do.
People buy them.
And people buy them.
Do you know why? Because they like a hard thing that they can. Then you can sign that, and then they can rip it and give it to all their friends.
Well, if anybody's dying for one, if you slide into my DMs, I will snail mail you one and pay the $2 postage.
Oh, there you go. And then watch them on Frankie and Grace or Grace and Frankie. On Netflix in an upcoming episode. Thank you for being on the show, Robert.
Oh, it's wonderful. It was a blast.
And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?